calculation to start with. Never mind that we're a year off because people are so ignorant that they think the millennium begins with the 2 and not ends with the 0.
Right.
But beyond that, this is all because a monk, as you know, you're aware of all of this, Dionysius, Dennis the Short was his name. In, I think, the 7th, let me see, I have notes on this here, and let me get it exactly right. What happened was, Dennis the Small, or Dennis the Little, Dionysius Exiguus, Dionysius the Short, he was commissioned by Pope John I in 525. He was a 6th century Scythian monk. He was told to standardize the liturgical calendar, and he did not include a year 0 between 1 BC and 1 AD. So on December 31st, we're welcoming in the last year of the preceding 1,000 years, not the new millennium. That's the obvious part. But on top of that, there is confusion about when Christ was born, because this is all based on one figure, his birth date, and Luke places the birth of Jesus while Quirinius was governor of Syria, which included Judea. But historians know that Quirinius was not appointed governor until AD 6 or AD 7. So they don't know if they're 4 years off, 6 years off, 7 years off. It's all a miscalculation, and if it really destroys civilization, it's a wonderful thing that an arrogant species can bring itself low by its own calculations.
And even though it's wrong.
Hubris. Hubris.
Yeah, that would be something. And I think we're fully capable of it.
Oh, yeah.
So listen, censorship.
Yeah.
When you first started your career, I think the first album you had some kind of warning label on it. This record contains 7 words you can never say on television or radio, whatever it was.
Right.
Anyway, is there anything left today? Is there any censorship left today? Do you deal with that when you go on HBO? Are there things that they say, oh...
No.
Really?
No. First of all, I own all of my own record albums and masters. I have made 18 records. I own them all, and I own all my 12 HBO shows. I've had a very good, solid career that's sustained very well, and I own all of these things. I am an independent contractor, and I make a show. HBO gives me a little advance, or it's not so little, actually, and I make a show, and when I deliver that show, they give me the rest of the money, my profit.
Sure.
And it's a licensing thing, and then they run it for 18 times if they want, and then I keep it.
But they never say a word?
I have not, since 1977, when I began with them 12 shows ago, they have never said a word to me, and I swear to you that's the truth. And that's one of the things that saved me. I had an album career, and by the way, before I get off tonight, Art, I do want to plug my CD box set, and I'll tell you about that later.
All right.
But I had an album career in the 70s where I had 6 albums, and 4 of them went gold. You referred to one of them, the Class Clown album, had the 7 words you can never say on TV.
Right.
The next album after that, Occupation Fool, had a sequel called Filthy Words, and that's the one that went to the Supreme Court. I'm the only comedian who ever had one of his routines as the subject of a Supreme Court case. Mm-hmm. And in 1978, they decided 5-4 that those 7 words I said were indecent. It wasn't an obscenity case, but it was called, they created a whole new category of filth just for me. And I am perversely proud of that. I'm a footnote in American legal history. But I then, when my album career kind of, you can't be the hot new guy in town forever.
That's right.
So that kind of faded in 76, 77, and along came HBO, and I had another medium, such as albums are, where I was uninterrupted by commercials, and I was uncensored by someone looking over my shoulder. On an album, you put out whatever you want, and on an HBO show, I do whatever I want, and that took my career, which was in the middle of a crossroads, and really pushed it to a high status, and I've done 12 of those shows. I average one I've done 11. I keep thinking about the next one, but I've done 11 of them, and in 22 years now, I've done 11, and that's every 2 years.
How did you feel about the cross from doing albums to television? That's a big jump.
Well, all during my album career, and before that, when I had an earlier surge of popularity as a straight kind of a stand-up, suit and tie, short hair, I had a wonderful career in the 60s of being what you'd call a mainstream comedian. I did all the big variety shows. I did 25 Merv Griffins and about 30 Mike Douglases and 11 Ed Sullivans. So I had a career before my hair got long and I got more personal with my comedy. But I always did television, and all I ever wanted from TV, there are two ways I do television. One is to go on Letterman or go on The Leno Show, and in exchange for my coming on, just like any movie star or any, kind of a actress or a band leader, I come on and I give them a little marquee value, and they give me a chance to plug whatever I'm plugging. So that's one way of doing television, and in those cases, I don't try to change their rules. I'm not there to be controversial. I'm there for a commercial bargain I'm striking.
So you save the controversy for the albums or the HBOs?
Yeah, HBO is my real art, and I refer to it as art, even though that's your first name, Art. I know it sounds pretentious sometimes for a comedian to use the word art. It is entertainment first, but there's an artistic process on. It's a writing job, and you are interpreting the world through your own prism. So that's an artistic process, and I go to HBO just to show pictures of what I do. It's really essentially nothing but my theater act shown in your home. The same way a baseball game is. The baseball game, it happens in the stadium, but they show them at home unchanged. That's what I do for HBO.
Do people write stuff for you, or do you
Never,
write? Never.
40 years.
All your own stuff.
Only time I ever had anything written was when I would be on a variety show in the 60s, and they would write a sketch that I was in. Anything I ever uttered as my own has always been written by me. That's my pride.
Oh yeah.
That I've written everything, and that I don't need help. This is a self-contained unit.
Do you ever wonder? And I ask a lot of famous people about this, because Ted Turner once said on a Pinnacle show, I saw him, and he said, having all this money, having everything, the CNN, the whole thing that I've got, he said, at the end of the day, it's all kind of an empty bag. That's what he said. It's kind of an empty bag. He's got so much money, so much everything. It doesn't mean much to him anymore. It's an empty bag.
Well, that sounds as if he doesn't get much joy from the process that he's in. Right. I'm assuming he didn't think to mention that part. No, I consider myself lucky and privileged to have been able to use my natural gifts in a way that satisfied me without, but doing it all on my own terms and being rewarded for it. Not just with money, but with this, that's the positive thing I was going to say a long time back. Here's what it is.
Yes?
I get to have, even though I was a kind of a lonesome kid, and I love my lonership, and I love being alone in the world, and Sally and I love being a little small unit separated from the rest. But you know something? When I go into an airport or a restaurant or a hotel lobby, I have people who say nice things to me, who say, I saw you in 1971, I saw you in 1965. Oh, my sister she loved you, she passed away last year, and she just had your book next to her. All of these strange stories about how you've touched people's lives, and I think of it as an extended family for whom I don't have to buy Christmas gifts. They like me, I like them one at a time as I meet them, but it's a wonderful gift to have, and it's part of that paradox. Like I say, the cynic is really a disappointed idealist. Well, the loner is longing to belong to something. Somewhere in him there's the need to belong and be accepted, at least in my case. And I get a little of that. I get a lot of it.
But kind of afraid to at the same time, right?
Yes, that's right. I don't want to be ruled by the other, but I like knowing that I've touched them and that they care about me.
If we could have a one world something or another that would be, kind of like this country.
Workable and viable. Yeah.
That'd be all right. But
you've
done a lot of travel. You've been to Russia, I bet. You've been to China. I've been to both those places fairly recently.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they'd have shot you a long time ago.
Listen, this is the best thing we've come up with. I admit that. It's a grudging admittance because I like having my little attitudes, But I'm not dishonest. And this is the best we've done, the best we've come up with. I just wish that the ability to refine it and to make it better were more viable, were more available to us. It seems as though there are a lot of, and a lot of it is that money, that political money, the interest to control things, and that's the way it is. When they talk about conspiracies, and one of the things I enjoy on your show is when people talk about the government, and I'm talking about your guests who talk about whether or not the government and certain agencies and certain aspects of government have covered things up. And I have thought for a long time, not always, obviously, but that